and welcome back to my channel. So here we have my March plan with me, and I kind of forgot that February only had 28 days, so I kind of fell victim to that, and now tomorrow is literally March 1st. But I always like to say the sooner the better, or basically I really loved how this theme came out, and I really didn't want to let the time frame be what stopped me from uploading this video, because I actually had a hard time trying to execute my theme. So basically my original thought process, I wanted to pretty much give myself like a mental vacation and kind of imagine myself somewhere else. And at the time I wanted to do a Paris theme, and I was so up to the challenge, and I kind of crashed and burned just a little bit, just a little bit. So I actually ended up changing my theme, and I've noticed the last few themes, I really curated it to what I am feeling at the moment or what I may be into at that point in time. And this kind of rides on that bandwagon as well, because when I was trying to figure out what to do other than my Paris theme, I was really into watching like the little clips on YouTube of Ink Master. Now, I don't have any tattoos on me. I'm way too indecisive to have something like that on my body, but I really liked the fact that there were just so many different types of art styles going on in the show, and that really inspired me. The one style that I thought I would actually not enjoy too much is what they call like American traditional, where it is a lot more clean cut lines, very bold color, but it's very simplistic. And so I pretty much did my intake of that, and surprisingly it didn't really turn out the way I had in my brain. I originally wanted to go for something like this. These were the images that kind of inspired me, and I definitely was gonna go very heavy with the Tombow markers, you know, the black, the red, the gold, and some white. But I was like, you know what, screw it, let's try something really different. So I actually opted to do watercolor. Now, I've done gouache before, and gouache was actually pretty easy. I was very scared to do watercolor, if I was gonna be very honest, just because I'm not the best when it comes with watercolor, but also I've never really tried that in this journal, so I was super scared. But you know, I was like, you know, first time's for everything, I guess. And it turned out a lot more delicate and a lot more softer than I had in my brain, which is okay, because I basically offsetted that by having a little bit of like craft paper and black paper throughout my spread to kind of give it some harshness. I like it. It's a weird color combination, because typically they always say like brown and black don't really go well, but if you see how I dress on my day-to-day, I'm a big neutral type of gal, or I use a bit of black in my wardrobe just because I don't really like thinking too hard about what I like to wear in terms of like color combination. So I always go for neutrals or black. Very easy, very simple. So I guess this time around, this theme really carries to what my, I guess, aesthetic has been going for the last few months. And I really did love how it came out. The only thing is, it wouldn't be Lindsay without having some technical difficulties. And you actually see that throughout the spread with my white gel pen. Now, I am still on the hiatus of using a white Posca pen. I refuse, and I'll say this now, I refuse to use it ever since the December plan with me. I basically threw them away, and I know it seems super wasteful, but they were just getting really messy, very inky, and kind of just like spilling everywhere to the point where I just could not really use them. So I basically opted to use my Uniball white pen, and I noticed that on top of the craft paper it wasn't really working too well, and also when I would use my black Tombow marker it just didn't really work out too well. So I'll be honest, this spread really was testing my patience just a little bit, but you know, you have to triumph to get a really good result. And here you can actually see how the white gel pen just didn't really show up too well. I noticed that when I used my jelly roll pen on the black construction paper, it looked really nice and actually very opaque. But for some reason, for the Tombow pens, the Tombow markers, it just didn't really work out too well. So from learning from my mistakes, I pretty much just tried to stick with just doing black cutouts throughout my spread, and it was pretty okay, but definitely like super time consuming. So pretty much my theme is primarily just snakes and flowers, and there isn't really like a type of flower specifically that I drew. It was just a flower style that was pretty prominent in the tattoo references that I saw online, so I pretty much picked these. And the snakes, I tried to keep them more of a whimsical but still had some realistic movement to them. I heard like snakes are really hard to draw just in terms of like the coiling of their bodies and everything, so it wasn't like too hard for me, but definitely some of the coiling did take a little bit more time to figure out, just because I had a hard time trying to make it look very natural. And nothing is supposed to really be perfect, but I do appreciate a little bit more realism, even if the drawing isn't, so to speak, realism. But I would say if you guys are not really interested in wanting to do the snakes, I know that some people just don't like them, or they just represent something really totally different in their culture or their religion, you definitely can just make it more of a floral theme, or you can actually switch the snakes out for something like, let's say, koi fish or some type of other animal. I just didn't really intend to do snakes as a primary theme. I just saw that they looked really nice in their art styling, and it was a lot better than what I saw out there for references. So snakes I thought wasn't going to be way too hard, but I guess I kind of just worked with it a little bit. Now that I'm actually looking at this plan with me as I'm doing like this voiceover, I noticed that last year I did an otter theme, and now this year I'm doing a snake theme. I didn't really intend to make it a corresponding thing to have animals, nor like animals that can be found in the water, because I know there's some like snakes that can live in water environments. But if you guys are like really into like the Zodiac signs and all that, I know what you're probably thinking, but if you're really into that, then you can definitely use this as like a play on to like the Pisces sign, because they primarily rule most of March, and some people don't like drawing cliche of fish. So I really just had like a light bulb moment of that. But I think it's like a really cool idea. For me, if you guys really want to know, I definitely am into like the zodiac signs. And if you guys are curious, I am a Libra, hence why I'm so indecisive, why I can talk so much and kind of ramble a little bit, but also why sometimes I kind of have like a particular way of how I translate my art. Sometimes if it doesn't come out the exact way that I want it to be, I just feel like there's just no point in doing the art. And I really had to mentally change that for myself, because that's not healthy, and art is really just a form of expression. So it's like you shouldn't really be too hard on yourself. But hence, that's a Libra. If you guys are really into it, then I can really go on and tell you that my sun sign is a Libra, my moon sign is Leo, and my rising sign is Capricorn. So if you kind of know, now you know. And to kind of give it a little bit of a kicker, I do have quite a bit of Scorpio in my birth chart, so hello emotional conflict. I always feel like I'm at a constant tug and pull with my inner being in terms of my feelings, because sometimes I tend to put people before myself, and I'm much more of a people pleaser. I know that sounds really bad, but I just feel satisfaction from, helping people in any way or form. It just makes me happy, and sometimes it's good, sometimes it's not. So hence my emotional back and forth, but now you know. For my habit tracker, I actually decided to do one big calendar this time around because I just couldn't come up with an idea of how to really make my habit tracker kind of unique to the spread. So I thought that since I don't usually do a big calendar, I thought it would be a good idea. And I did actually have a lot more different types of habits that I wanted to track. Some that are my usual, and the other ones just more of things that I'm curious about. So I also made a little notes section just in case if I wanted to incorporate more habits, or maybe that I need to follow up on something to confirm an appointment, or maybe a date that I need to pay my bill earlier. Anything like that, I kind of did. Lately, I've been super busy to where it's actually been pretty hard keeping up with my weekly spreads. And so I opted to do this really cool like Dutch door book type of idea when it came to setting up for the rest of the weeks. I usually don't set up this far in advance, but I thought that it would be a cool way to experiment, and maybe it might make my life a little bit easier. So I thought that would be really cool. I also went ahead and still incorporated some of my theme into the limited space that I do have, and pretty much I made it seem as though the snakes were kind of slithering in and out of the page. One, because I was super lazy and I didn't want to draw like a full-bodied snake, but also it just gave it a little bit more of a whimsicalness, I must say. But this is what I meant by I cut out each of these black circles, and oh my gosh, it took so long. That was it worth it? Yeah, because I can see the numbers, but I don't know if it was worth in terms of my time. I'm still very much on the fence about them, but ultimately I'm pretty excited to see how this may work, just because I've never done a weekly spread kind of like this before, and I made sure to give myself a little bit more space throughout my weeks, just because I am not going to have a designated task area or have a section for notes, nothing like that. Very short and very sweet. So we shall see how this works. If it ends up working really nicely, then I'll continue on with it, but if it doesn't, then at least I can write it down in the books. And I'm just ending it off with having my tasks section and my event section. So very simple and very elegant. If you guys made it to the final flip through, you guys are so amazing. And I just want to say thank you to everybody that was super encouraging with my last video. I know I had some technical difficulties, but basically you guys were amazing and made me feel less bad about it, to the point where now I have a dust rag. So that was a lifesaver for this plan with me. But thanks again, you guys, and see you next time. Bye!